This is what I was up to last week on my bike. Today I'm riding my bike from the Adriatic Sea to the Ionian Sea across the peninsula of Salento in southern Italy, or to be more specific, in Puglia. I'm starting in Brindisi. I'm getting a little help from the train, and I'm taking the train from Brindisi to Oria, and then I'm getting off in Oria and then riding to Manduria, and then to the coast in San Pietro and Bevagna. And then along the coast, before heading inland, I'll go through Veglie and Carmiano and then end in Lecce, where I'll take the train in the evening back to Brindisi. Normally I travel with Trenitalia, and I'm either going south to Lecce or north towards Bari. The trains with Trenitalia, the train cars, tend to be a little bit newer. The trains run a little bit more frequently, and they have compartments to hang your bike on, which is nice. This is one of the few times I'm going with Sud-Est, Ferrovia della Sud-Est, and the trains I know are a little bit older. They don't run as frequent, and even though the schedule says that they should have a compartment to hold your bike, it's kind of hit or miss, and it's up to the conductor whether he's going to let you on with your bike or not. So obviously the train conductor let me on the train with my bike, and I'm getting off at Oria here, and I'm going to ride towards the coast, just as soon as I get the route loaded in the computer. So I'm starting the ride in Oria. I'm not sure whether I want to actually see the town or not at this point, because I have a full day planned. About 100 kilometers, and I need to get back to Lecce to take the train back to Brindisi by the time it gets dark. So in the end, I'm a little bit hungry, so I decide to have breakfast in Oria. I decide to ride my bike uphill. Oria is on a hill, so it's kind of hard not to ride up a hill. But I go visit the cathedral, which is at one of the higher points in the town, and there's a nice view from there of the countryside below. And I'm kind of winding down the streets around the town, but at a certain point I get sick of just carrying the bike up and down steps, because it's not a great town to ride your bike in, and there's steps everywhere, so I just get sick of that and take off. road leading outside Oria is not too bad, not too much traffic, it's smooth riding, and there's even a bike path at a certain point. I did see a sign for the San Cosimo Sanctuary, and I've heard about that place before, so I decided to take a little pit stop and check that out. Riding up to the sanctuary was a weird experience. I've never seen anything quite like this in Italy. I've seen a lot of churches, but never seen one with so many parking spots. I was reading some reviews, and I don't know how long it was ago, 30, 40 years ago, it must have been a pretty hopping place to bring your family and kids. There was rides and activities for the kids, even a zoo, and there's a bar there. I think actually they still have the bar. I think it's still operational. But anyways, it's still apparently an active pilgrimage, so I'll have to go a pilgrimage site in Italy, the second most popular in this area behind Padre Pio and San Giovanni Rotondo. So I will have to go check that out in May, I believe, and see what that's like. And there were some pictures showing what it was like in the past outside the church. Got a little more bumpy at this point, and then at a certain point I looked off and there's like a quarry down there, and I checked it out on Google Maps, and it said it was some kind of Messapian quarry. It looked a little too neat to be that old, but there was a lot of random walls going all over the place, so there must be some kind of archaeological history here. So I spotted this small chapel on the other side of the quarry, and it turns out it was the chapel of San Gaetano. So in there it's not much to see, it's a pretty small place, but there's a picture of, I imagine, San Gaetano, Virgin Mary, Padre Pio is there, next to a can of beer. So when I come into Manduria, this is like the second or third time that I've been to Manduria. I know there's an archaeological park here, but every time I've been here it's been closed, and this time it's no exception, but there are some ruins outside the city that you can visit. So I just take a little tour of the city and stop for an ice cream. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find a bakery to grab some lunch, so just to be safe before heading out of Manduria, I grabbed a sandwich for lunch and headed outside of town. Manduria is one of the wine headquarters of this part of Italy, so there's a lot of vineyards around, there's a lot of masserias. This one happens to be in a forest that I saw on Google Maps. It looked kind of nice, so I decided to ride by that. I'm heading towards San Pietro in Bevagna on the coast, and it's kind of one of those rare days where it's a nice sunny day. The wind is against me going downhill towards the coast, and then when I was going back the other direction, the wind was pushing me uphill, so it doesn't happen too often, so I'm enjoying it while it lasts. So San Pietro in Bevagna is the first town that I come to. It's the end of April right now, so it's pretty empty. This place would be absolutely packed in August, so it's a good time to visit in the springtime. One of the first things you see is the San Pietro church here, and I read on the plaque outside that it said the Apostle Peter was rumored to have landed here in the 1st century AD, so the church is named in his honor. So right next to the church is a nice little pine grove. I'm checking that out, and then just beyond that there's some sandy beaches, and that's about all I see from San Pietro before I continue heading south. So after San Pietro, I rode through a nature reserve, which was nice, but the trails were quite sandy, so it was a little difficult with the bike. I had to get off and push it at a lot of points, so that became a little tiring. Heading south down the coast, I passed Torre Lapillo. It's a nice, small seaside resort, again, busy in August, but fine at the end of April. So this was an interesting experience. I went down this trail, and it was a sandy trail, a little bit hard to navigate. I had to walk at some points, pretty secluded, and no concession stands or anything like that. So I imagine if you really have to work to get here, so it probably stays a little less populated than the other beaches. But as I took my bike outside of the kind of brush area and towards the beach and looked to my left, I saw one guy on the beach completely naked. I didn't know it was a nude beach, but I guess at least, well, maybe it wasn't a nude beach, but he certainly thought it was a nude beach. It's a good thing my GoPro didn't have that wide of an angle on that, otherwise I probably would have got that in the shot. So I think Punta Prosciutto was my favorite beach on this trip, at least. There was quite a few people on the beach for it being a weekday, but the weather was nice, and my only regret was I didn't have enough time to just hang out on the beach because I knew I had to get back to Lecce to get the train. So I was absolutely starving, so I did pull out the sandwich that I bought in Manduria and had lunch here and got to go in the water a little bit, but again, I wish I could have stayed here a little bit longer. So after Punta Prosciutto, I rode down to Torre Lapillo, and that was the last stop, at least on the coast, before I started heading inland towards Lecce. Still had my Crocs on at this point. I just didn't feel like getting the sand off my feet and everything, and ended up riding the whole way home with my Crocs, which wasn't actually as bad as I thought it would be. Before going to Veglie, I decided to stop by the Porsche Technical Center in Nardò. I'd seen the place on the map, and I was always curious about what it was like inside, if there was a racetrack, if you could see that or whatever. But there really wasn't too much there. I saw some Porsches just driving down the street that looked like they were test cars, but the only thing I got was I went up to the actual technical center and asked if I could go inside, but the security guard just looked at me and wanted to see my GoPro, and there's really nothing to see there. It's just a wall that you can't see behind, really. So finding your way between two towns in Italy is a little bit of a crapshoot. I mean, sometimes you get lucky and you have a nice country road that's small and narrow and all you see are tractors on there. Other times you got to pick between two bad alternatives, either a super busy road like this one here, or a really bumpy, crappy, rocky, not even gravel, but just rocky road. So I chose the rocky road, and it was a bumpy ride, but I felt safer than being on the other road. Here's my mid-afternoon gelato, and I absolutely devoured this one in Veglie. I was extremely hungry. So after having the ice cream, I had a little bit of time on my hands. It was running pretty good on schedule. I felt I could make it to Lecce in time, so I took a few minutes and went visited the old part of the town. There's just basically a nice square there with a fountain. It's always nice to have a fountain there, and I got a drink there, and water was so good I had a refill. After Veglie, I headed towards Carmiano, and both towns, I don't want to offend anyone there, but there's not a whole lot to see there, so maybe I missed something, I'll have to go back, but They're nice spots to have a ice cream or a coffee or something like that and take a break along the way. In Carmiano, I didn't even stop anywhere for a coffee or anything. I just kind of cruised through the town and found the sign to go to Lecce. This was kind of an interesting church right outside of Carmiano, a little roadside church with outdoor seating. I've never seen something like this before. The path I needed to go down was closed for traffic, and I thought, okay, no big deal, it's closed for traffic for cars, but I can just get through on my bike. I've been through some trails that look much worse than this, so I decided to give it a shot, and I'd even been back there with my car before and noticed that it was just a small strip of land. But it turned out to be a little bit more difficult. It was actually like barricaded at the front, and then once you got through that, I had to kind of pick up my bike and get through some weeds. And then it was just a really crappy bridge you had to navigate over. And then right when I got to the end of it, it was another barricade that I had to somehow weasel my way around. But I finally made it through at the end and got on my way. That was the worst part back. So after that, it was pretty much smooth sailing back to Lecce. It was all asphalted roads, very nice, and I just stopped and checked, took a look at the train schedules and found out there was a train that was leaving in a half hour, so I kind of picked up the pace and got to the station in time and got the train back to Brindisi.